I'm going to start recording if you're all okay with that for the folks who couldn't be here. And if you haven't met me before, I'm Lisa Miles, and I work in the Office of Common Ground and coordinate First Gen student programming. And let me tell you a little bit about the folks who are here with me tonight. So Ashley Apollon, as we will go in alphabetical order, here's Ashley, is majoring in global studies with a concentration in cultures and communications, minoring in biology and religious studies, grew up in Conyers, Georgia, but was born in Haiti, works as a cultural advisor and a Spider Nights co-coordinator on campus. Raven Baugh, a little way from, yes. Raven's from Dinwiddie County, Virginia, and is an American Studies major and an English minor. She works on campus as a writing center consultant, as well as the Spider Nights co-coordinator for the Cultural Advisor Program. And lest you think you have to be a cultural advisor or a Spider Nights co-coordinator, you do not to do this, but these two seniors happen to be pretty spectacular, so I wanted them to be here. Our third member is Taylor Hurtado. Taylor is in between some multiple activities this evening and maybe our most mobile of panelists, but we're very glad she's here. Taylor is from Fort Worth, Texas, is a biology and English double major. Her major activities are APO, the service fraternity, SEEDS, the alternative spring break, SLY, which is mentoring in the community, PAM mentoring program, and has done internships and also worked in the Office of Sustainability, I believe, right? Yeah, she's done nothing here, yeah. And last but not least, only alphabetically last, we have Will Walker. William Will Walker Jr., who goes by he, him, his, is a senior who studies leadership studies and women, gender, and sexuality studies. He has participated in a number of organizations and professional roles, including Living Learning Programs, RCSGA, is also a university writing consultant, has been in residence life and student housing, as well as in the Forum magazine. Will currently serves as an exec board member of Inquiries from the Margins and is currently conducting research on the way colleges and universities frame diversity and the impact that this framing has on enrolled students. Well, we could spend a long evening talking just about that. Am I right? So I'm going to ask a few questions. I'm going to start a little bit with some social life, finding your fit, go to some like resources, important resources and opportunities that you had here, and a little bit of general advice and what you really wish you'd known earlier in your time here that you would have taken advantage of, and then I'll open it up to the group. Sounds like a plan? Okay. So panelists, tell me a little bit about how you went about finding your friend group, the people that you fit with. Was that something that just happened in your freshman year, or is your friend group different? What have you learned along the way about doing that? And you are welcome to all unmute yourselves, raise your hand. Super flexible about who would like to go first.
I can go. So for me, before I even came to the University of Richmond, I had applied and got accepted into the SMART program. And for the SMART program, you do URISE for the summer. So you like get to go on campus and do research for, I think it was a week or two. And it was like a group of students who were also part of the program. And so the people I spent that week or two in the summer with have became the people that I like kind of like grew bonds with, and they're part of my friend group today. Most of that had to do with the fact that like for the freshman year, we had to take classes together. And they were like very challenging classes. And I feel like when you go through something challenging with a group of people, you kind of bond over that. So that was like a good opportunity for me. And then as like college went on, I made more friends just from like extending myself into different organizations on campus. And I think that was like the most influential into like expanding my social bubble was just like being very open to any type of like clubs and activities. One of them was like the Ritmo dance team. I have no dance team experience whatsoever. I just like one day I asked my friends what they were doing and they're like, we're going to Ritmo. And I was like, okay, I'll go. I didn't ask them like what Ritmo was, like, what is it? But I went and I stayed in a part of that club for like 2 years and like made some good friends through that.
Thank you. Who else wants to share a little bit about finding your people?
I think I'll hop in there. So freshman year, or starting a little bit before freshman year, a lot of my friend group kind of came from multicultural pre-orientation. You know, coming into the University of Richmond as a student of color was a really good experience, a really good place to really be around people that looked like me. And then kind of riding the high of being connected and being in the PREO community. I also participated in a living learning program my freshman year, which honestly to me was probably the best, one of, if not the best way to make connections in community. I lived in Wood. There were about 80 of us. Very small residential community. We were all, everybody that lived there, we were all pretty much, we knew of each other. And of course we had our individual relationships with each other, but it was a really, really cool experience. I think I have a little bit of a different experience because after freshman year, I went into Res Life my sophomore year. So there was a little distance between me and the friends that I'd made that freshman year. But I've also been able to, through, as Ashley said, through a variety of different activities and programs on campus and off campus, at the University of Richmond and not at the University of Richmond, right? I've had the opportunity to really, really make a lot of meaningful connections and really have had a really cool time making those connections and having those opportunities to speak, to engage people and to really be a good social influence and to have those good social influences on me as well.
Thanks. Anybody else want to chime in? We don't have to all answer the same question, but you want to? Yeah, Taylor?
Yeah, I'll hop in too. My experiences were also very different. I found my friends by accident. Both times. Well, I'm thinking of like to my two closest friends at Richmond. So one I found during orientation where we were, I happened to see her actually at a Spiders First event. I just remembered her face, like looking around because I didn't know anyone, a single person. But I just remember kind of like, okay, so this is a group who is my year, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I think after like at some point during orientation, we got lost. I don't know how we got separated from our groups, but we did. And I was just like, oh, I was like, okay, I'll just walk with you. I was like, also, aren't you going to the Spiders First event later on? And she was like, yeah. And so anyways, that's how we met. And we just became we stayed very close friends since then. And then my other close friend, I was actually friends with her roommate first. And which kind of goes into the whole I wish I had known thing when about like kind of just growing. You might find new friends, you might not. I mean, et cetera, et cetera. For me, I mean, the roommate I became friend, or her roommate, the girl I was friends with originally, we did kind of drift apart, which is totally okay. People grow, people change. But I became a lot closer to her roommate, so my current best friend. And then, like I said, from there, she happened to also be a Spiders First. And again, a lot of this was accident. I don't remember her from the first meeting, but from there, we all kind of like joined different clubs, or we tried to introduce each other to different friend groups. I also feel like I met a lot of people at my jobs. I try to find anything that could fit in my schedule. So that's why I took off with friends and stuff like that. So really just kind of like what Ashley said, really expanding the bubble. I was so scared, so new to Richmond. I was like, I'm from Texas. I don't know what's going on over here. And so it was a very new experience, but I'm really glad I did join some clubs and stuff like that, because other than that, I don't know how I would have found friends.
Got it. Great.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add in one thing as well that I haven't, because I made my friend group and stuff like that from like a variety of different ways, as everyone has pointed out and stuff. But another way I made friends was also through fellowships that I did and research opportunities. So again, like if you participate in summer research, like maybe through like the Race and Racism Project, or like I did the humanities fellows as well. Like those were great ways to also make friends, because you're researching with people, and they're people who are academically driven in the same ways that you are. So you make, I mean, really quick connections. So that's been a great way to make friends too.
Thank you. So tell me, a lot of you wrote in your survey to me that you had some experience here that were really transformative. You either availed yourself of resources or you took advantage of some programs that ended up having a big impact. Anyone want to share about some of those experiences?
I can go ahead and jump. Oh, sorry. Well, go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
No, go for it, Taylor.
I was just gonna say, one of the programs I am like determined to let as many people know about as I can is this thing that the career services offer. It's I'm blanking on the term. I will find it and let you guys know. But just kind of look around their website. It's what they do is you fill out this form about like professional outfits. Basically, you can get a free professional, like I got a jacket, or what is it called, a blazer, trousers, and everything for free, because it's up to a certain point, of course, but you can get it once a year. So I thought that was just amazing. I had no idea about this until last year. And what was I going to say? So yeah, career services offers that, and they also do gas reimbursement if you're going to like conferences or internships or something. And so I just thought those are very helpful resources that I had no idea existed, and now I'm just determined to go tell everyone about them. So yeah, that's my main one.
So mine is not necessarily like a program, more so than it is just really meaningful conversations and engagements with administrators. So my sophomore year, again, because I was like in Res Life, a lot of my friend groups changed. The dynamic of my friend groups changed because nobody wants to be friends with the person that's like has the authority to write you up if you do something you're not supposed to be doing. So I did find myself struggling socially a lot during that year, but also really, really did take advantage of the openness of administrators. And I mean like high level administrators, the dean, Dr. Bassesi, also took advantage of CAPS as a resource. And really, really, and I think this is just one of the things that is undervalued. I think there's a lot of people on our campus that care. And I don't know, I think there's like a weird perception from students, right? Sometimes it's like, who is this stranger that's kind of sitting up here on this pedestal or up here, you know, seemingly distant from the student body, but no, really like a lot of the administrators really are. I would say that they're the best, them and the faculty, right? Or some of the best resources that are on our campus. I think they're underutilized and undervalued for sure, but also, you know, for the people who do use them, for the people who reach out to them and have those needs, I think a lot of them are addressed. And I mean, even if they aren't addressed, you know, you typically leave those conversations feeling better than when you went into them, which is always something, you know, good in of itself, regardless of the outcome.
So Will, can I ask you a follow-up? So you mentioned Dr. Bassesi, and for those of you who don't know, he's the Vice President of Student Development. So he's even sort of over the deans of Richmond College and West Hampton College. And you mentioned the dean. Like, so how do you get to know folks like that? Like, how'd you make it happen?
I literally just sent him an email. And I will say that the email that I sent him was kind of rooted in a place like I was angry when I wrote the email. I was like upset, like, you know, this was sophomore year. There was a lot going on, or there wasn't a whole lot going on. This was right after they'd passed the rule for lodges. You know, if you weren't in an organization, you couldn't get in. So social life was kind of just dead for a lot of people. So I was like very upset, very angry, and was interested in doing something different, or trying to figure out the best way to create new opportunities for students or figure out like what the university's plan was. And so I was just like, hey, Dr. Besessi, you know, you're in this role, you're in this title. Hey, Dean Bowman, like, yo, you're in this role, you have this title, and just did that with all of the people that I reached out to, and it was like, and the crazy part, some of them responded, you know, almost that like within hours of me sending the email, which is weird because I know a lot of people think that like, oh, they don't check their emails. Like, no, they do. Sometimes I get emails from people, faculty and administrators at 11 p.m. and 12, like they're up with us sometimes. But I guess the point here is to say that like it's very easy to start those conversations, and you know, for me, email was the best way to go about establishing that connection. But also like, a lot of these people already know who you are. You know, if you're involved, if you're engaged, if you're doing really cool things on campus, they probably know who you are. And most of the time, their doors are always open. You know, you don't have to email, you can just stop by and say hi. You know, they're there. And I just don't know if there's a whole lot of people that know that they're there and that they're so easy to contact.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, you'll be on a first name basis, each of you, with like somebody dean or above by the time you get to be senior. Hopefully sooner though, right?
Trust me, they know who you are. Our campus is not that big. They know who you are.
And that's not a bad thing, right?
Not at all.
Yeah. Taylor, you have something to follow up on. Please do.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I completely forgot it. I don't know how I keep doing this. The dean's office is such a great resource. I did the same thing Will did. I just emailed them. I was so surprised that an email was so easy and simple. But no, seriously, I agree with the faculty. I feel like when you coming in as a freshman, I was just like, oh, they're these superior beings. I really can't communicate with them. The dean's office, it really serves as like that bridge if you really need to like. For one, I feel like I would have considered them when I first saw it. Let me try that again. When I first considered the dean's office, I figured they'd probably be on the side of whatever, just not really there to help me. They were just kind of like there to be like, okay, so what can we do for you via this paper? And so anyways, after actually getting to work with them, or having to work with them, should I say, it was just really nice to see how they really are very open, always ready for conversations. And the faculty, I am amazed with. I mean, sure, there are a few that you kind of just want to anyways, but like that's bound to happen. But like the faculty are just amazing. They're really great outside of your courses. I still talk to my professors today. They're usually like, sometimes Dr. Siebert, for example, in the English department, I'm obsessed with her. She will send me these random like posters or some events going on and be like, hey, I figured you'd be interested in this. And that honestly started by me just asking her about her studies, her research. I took her first or two classes with her. And then I kind of just been like followed up with that. But I highly recommend reaching out to the dean's office, even if you maybe just to say, hey, I mean, I personally didn't do that. I needed their help for something. But like even that, they were just kind of like, oh, okay, well, let me come in, or let's do this call together and we'll try to figure out some solutions. They were so helpful when it comes to solutions, especially when it came to like trying to figure out something about a course or you needed their approval. They're just very understanding. And I feel like I did not understand that they were that understanding until I was at the very lowest point at Richmond. I was like, oh no. So yeah, again, just to reiterate, Will said 10 out of 10 recommend them.
I guess just to add on to the conversation about like reaching out to your professors and things like that. Like you don't have to have anything, like any problems or anything like that. You can just say hello or like follow up with something you read in the news or something intriguing from the class to speak with them. And through my professors, I've been recommended not only helping me with grad school applications and getting into grad school, but also for internship opportunities. Like I express interest in like museum studies, in American studies, which is my major. And they like gave me a lot of different opportunities, like recommending me for like working at Monticello and recommending me for like different museum opportunities. And I wouldn't have gotten those without those connections with my professor. And then also just talking about other broad resources. I think obviously, I think the Writing Center is a great resource if you need any help with writing papers or going through your ideas, or anything like that. I also think the Academic Skills Center is super helpful. I remember I went for tutoring for German because I take German at the university, and that was really helpful experience. So there's a lot of like just little like nooks and crannies and things like that, and places where you could really not only broaden your experience but also supplement anything that you're missing.
Raven, I have just a quick little point to add to what you said about the Academic Skills Center. Because there's a lot of resources, but also like your classmates, your friends, your community members, the people in your classes, they're also really cool resources. Back during my freshman year when I thought I was going to be a computer scientist, I was taking Intro to Comp Sci. Long story short, I ended up not being a Comp Sci major. But there was one assignment where our entire class, we were in the library in collaborative section. There was like 15 people all working on the same project, you know, working on this project together. And when we couldn't figure it out as a group, we went to our professor's office the next day. All 15 of us, we were packed in his office, working on our homework assignment. And he made the joke, like, people walking by, it's like, oh, damn, I hate to be, you know, they were probably thinking, damn, I hate to be that professor, or hate to be that student. But no, it really was just a really cool experience or opportunity to be able to have such a collaborative environment, to have students who, you know, students, faculty, staff, resources, that are there. And then I'll close with just saying, like, I'm a writing consultant. Please come see me. I'm here for you.
Yeah, I just want to mention, like, first on like the writing center, like I think it was sophomore year, like they saved my life with this one grade. Um, so like for like one of my classes, like if you turn in your paper early enough, like she'll give you a grade for it, and then you have an opportunity to like turn it again, and she'll like check it as like a new paper. And like the first time I turned it in, I made a 67 on that paper. And she was like, try going to the writing center. And I went, and first of all, it was like so helpful. Like the way that they just broke down like how to like properly like write a paper, and like not just like objectively, but working with the information you already have was just so helpful. When I turned in my new paper, I made a 97. So like saved my life, and I never forget it. But in terms of like resources, like I feel like on campus you have like many opportunities to kind of like build your own community, and that community doesn't have to be just like student based, as like everyone had already said, but there's opportunities to like connect with your professors. And if you don't know how to like kind of get into a community or like build your own, just like joining like a lot of clubs in the beginning, and just like slowly finding your way into that one club that you just keep on going back to is really helpful. For like me, my like entryway to all the resources on campus was definitely the First Gen program, because that's where like I met Lisa, and like Lisa like opened the door to like a whole bunch of different things for me that I did not know existed on campus or off campus, especially like the CA program and SSIR program. Like I had no idea about the SSIR program until like one First Gen meeting. Lisa was just like passing out like these little pamphlets about it, and she was like, you get to travel. And I was like, travel? That sounds like a lot of money. She was like, for free. And I was like, oh. So that was like another like great opportunity to like learn more about what this campus has to offer. And it's a very like casual way of like kind of building that community by just joining clubs. And also in terms of your professors, like the conversation with your professors doesn't always have to be like strictly like about like assignments and things like that. Like I've had a lot of like conversations of just like, I don't know what to do with like my life. Like I'm here at school, I'm like going to classes, but like, what is this for type of thing? And they will like sit down and like, they will tell you their own personal stories and like get like really real and down to earth. And that's something that's like really special about this campus. Like there are many professors who like chose to teach at small liberal arts school just to like build that connection with their students. So they really want you to come to them and ask them about like real life questions, and they'll sit down and they'll listen, they'll share their stories and like help you. And I think like that's just like one of the great opportunities here.
If I can, I'd like to just ask one a little bit combined question, then I want to open it up to y'all. Like just finding your academic path. I know for some of you has been a journey, right? Like it isn't always what you come in thinking you want to study that you end up getting the degree in. And for some of you, I know that's a struggle, like to really figure it out. And if you have any tips about that, how you did figure it out, who helped you work through that, maybe what ideas about yourself you have to let go of a little bit that just allow yourself to find your own passion. And then part two is a little bit like, what sort of self-management tips do you have? Like what has made you successful? If you had one thing to say, like, I've learned to do this, and this has helped me get through like the busy times, the hard times or whatever, what would that be? But maybe the academic piece first. Like anyone have an interesting journey or a good way to solve the, I don't know what I want to major in question?
Yeah. I don't know if this is the answer that people want, but it's the answer. It's a very college professor, people in higher ed sort of answer. Literally, like, just be so open-minded. Just a second ago, I told y'all I came in thinking I was going to do computer science, but I actually came in thinking I was going to be a double major in computer science and finance. And clearly, from being a leadership studies major, that is not the path that I ended up taking. And I think a lot of that is because of the liberal arts focus. Once I realized that I didn't want to do computer science, I spent a lot of time like confused. There was a point in time where I was like going to propose my own major that combined 5 or 6 different academic programs. I met with at least 5 or 6 different program chairs. I was like, I think this is what I want to do, but there's this thing in this program that I don't really like. There's, I want to take these classes, but these classes don't fit into this curriculum. So really, I think the best advice that anyone can give is to really just tell you to like be open-minded and really just explore what it is you're interested in, and to leave the rest and to let the rest kind of fall where it may. Like take those classes that are weird. And for me, those weird classes were at the Jepson School, right? Like I took a class called Sex, Power, and Politics. Like to me, that's very exciting. I took Intro to Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. Like to me, that like from where I'm from, that was a very weird, taboo. Like we don't talk about sex. We don't talk about we don't talk about these things. So to me, those were really cool things. And so I would just say like follow where your brain, where your mind, where your interests take you, and be open to what that looks like, and also don't really worry too much about what the outcome of that degree will be. Right? I think a lot of people spend a lot of time like, oh, I won't get a job, I won't do this, I won't do that. But like, liberal arts degrees are valuable for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of transferable skills, and you'll find that when you do the courses and do the programs that you like, they're much more enjoyable than forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to Will's story. Senior year of high school, I had a plan. Like I had this it went beyond like college plan. My plan was that I was going to major in biology. I was going to be in biology and environmental studies. I was going to be an environmental toxicologist, become a researcher. Like it was done. It was set. And then freshman year, like I was in the SMART program and was taking these science classes, and it was okay. Like it was an enjoyable experience. And then sophomore year hit and Orgo hit, and I was just like, whoa. But it was also at this point, as part of like the Aspire to First Gen, we would go to these the Align conferences, and we would meet other first gen students, and we would also meet professionals. And I remember this one experience. I was talking to a professional, and then I was just telling him like, oh, I'm not sure like what I want to do and stuff like that. And he was like, oh, what's your major? And I was like, biology and stuff. And biology. And he was like, oh, do you like that major? And I was like, like, do I enjoy having it as the major? Like, I just could not wrap my head around the concept of like, it's going to get me to where I need it to go. And he was like, but do you like it? Do you like enjoy what you're doing? And I was just like, huh, interesting. And that kind of just like opened my mind, and just going back to like taking classes that you wouldn't usually take. And that's how I found myself into like the religious studies minor that I'm in, because like one of the gen eds was like the English gen ed, and I saw this one class, and literally the title was just Satan. Like that was it. It was Satan. And I was like intrigued, but like afraid. And I was just like, why not? And I took it, and I absolutely enjoyed the class. And as I got more into the social sciences, I just realized, I was like, yeah, the hard sciences are not it. Like they just don't fit me. But I just couldn't like completely let go of the hard sciences, because it was just like, that means I had to abandon my plan. And I didn't have a plan B. And I didn't know who I was like outside of the sciences. And I wasn't confident that if I were to leave this like very steady and secure route, like would I find like that happiness or like that comfortable lifestyle after graduation. And I think like what helped me kind of just like let go of that was just having conversations with people who are a part of the faculty that does like the social sciences, or even just talking with professors I've gotten close with, and just realizing that if you like follow the path that you're interested in, you're going to naturally find more opportunities. Like when you're in like a field that you're not interested in, you're gonna avoid it. Like you don't want to think about it. But if you're like studying something you really enjoy, you're like, what else can I do? And what else is there out there? And I found myself finding these internships and programs, and like suddenly like my experience on campus and like my view about academics like became something much more enjoyable, because I put myself in a position to like enjoy the classes that I was actually in.
Good. Well, I wonder, since I asked an awkward two-part question, if we can hold that, second piece of like that great kind of like way you've learned to manage your life. And let's open it up to see if you all have questions, if anything is on your mind, because I think that's way more valuable than any question I can ask. So you're pretty friendly. What do you think?
Hi, I have one.
Hey.
So hey everyone, my name is Maria. I'm a prospective spider, so actually a senior in high school right now.
Yay.
And yes, and I need help picking a college. What was your process? What were the factors you considered? And if you could give me some practical indicator right now. So yes, that one please.
What a great question, Maria. Yeah, so glad you're here.
I can answer. For me, I honestly didn't have a dream college that I wanted to go to. All I knew is that I didn't want to go to school in state. I'm from Georgia, as mentioned, because I really wanted to like experience something like outside of what I knew. But also a very important thing for me was financial aid. And also going to a liberal arts school was really important, because I knew that I had a lot of interest, and I didn't want to kind of like pigeonhole myself in just like one field. I wanted to like just naturally explore. Um, so for me, it involved having a conversation with my advisor in high school about like what schools are out there that will give me a lot of financial aid, but also like a lot of opportunities to like do things I wouldn't normally do, but also like support me in doing those things. Especially study abroad was like a um, very important to me. And what that's when I found out about like liberal arts schools in general, and just like the way that they're set up with the small class sizes, like professors are able to give you like more attention, and the resources are much more available because the campus is smaller. So I think like those were the biggest factors. And then when it came down to like choosing like Richmond over a different school, it was very spontaneous. Um, I had gotten like my financial aid packet, and I was like, wow. Um, so then that was like one of like the biggest factors that helped me decide to like come here. But also like when I found out about like the funded research that they allow you to do, like even just as like a first year, I knew how hard it is to like actually do research. So that kind of like showed me that this school is like willing to go like a bit more in terms of like opportunities available to me, and that like my financial status wouldn't like prevent me from acquiring those opportunities. So I think that was like the big factor.
Yeah, for me, and very similarly, I think, financial aid was, a very big component of that, because you definitely want to go to a college that's affordable, right? You don't want to have to break the bank to get a college degree. But I will also say that for me, one of the things that I thought a lot about was the campus community. I'm from a very small town. My hometown has about 4,000 people. So I really, really needed to be in a place where I could feel like a part of a community in some sense. I needed to be in a place where I would feel comfortable being myself most of the time, and really being in a space where I was like, no, like those 300, 400, intro lectures, not for me. I really needed to be in a space where I could have that individual support. I needed to be in a space where I could ask questions to my professor, where I could where office hours are like a real thing, and like you can actually stop by your professor's office, and they have time to talk to you, and have time to really engage your interest, and then also opportunity, right? I this is where where for me the competition between colleges really does come into play, right? University of Richmond, like many other colleges, has a lot of resources, and I mean a lot of resources. There's a lot of opportunity here. Between the 3.5, 4 years that I've been at the University of Richmond, I've literally done all kinds of stuff. I went to Austin, Texas, on the university's dime to compete for a national fellowship. I would have gone to South Africa for a summer had COVID not happened. I'm still very upset about that, but that would have been free of cost. I've currently conducting research with support from faculty members and mentors that are like dominant in their fields. And like just the number of different things, and I mean, I could make you a very specific list of all the things that I've done because of the opportunity at UR. But I guess the gist here is that there are a lot of things to think about when you go to college, and you really should consider opportunity and access to resources. Which college do you think is going to prepare you best for what it is you want to do? Which college are you going to feel where you're somewhere where you can be yourself, where you don't necessarily have to like hide behind false pretenses or hide behind some sort of a glass mirror where you're one person to one group and another person to somebody else. You really, I guess to conclude, you definitely want to, again, be somewhere, that's affordable. that has the program that you think you want to do, right? But also, you know, lots of different programs that are available if you end up not doing what you think you want to do.
Good. Thanks, Maria. Best of luck. It's an exciting time. Raven, do you want to share something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say a little thing that I remember that I did, like, and I know these probably aren't happening right now, but I just remember I had really enjoyed doing a visitation experience called The Answer, and that was really informative as a student of color because transparency, right? University of Richmond is a very white space. It just is, and I liked being able to talk with other like students of color, not just prospective students, but students who go here about like what this experience actually is like for them, like what are the problems with the university, and I really weighed that against as Will really like hit the nail on the head about the opportunities that you can get here, right? Like University of Richmond is a top Fulbright producer. They helped me walk through and get the Gilman Scholarship, which is another international scholarship for a lot of first generation students and low income students like myself. And as Ashley also pointed out, right, like they are a part of the, like, I think 1% of schools that give you very have they're need blind, and they give you very generous financial aid packages that allow you to like go to college without those huge burdens of like loans and things like that, depending on like as compared to other places. And then another thing academically that was just really important for me was that I knew this was a rigorous university because I was looking at very selective colleges. I'm from Virginia, and I was just looking at selective colleges in Virginia because I knew that that would be easier for me when in regards to like moving and things like that. And I knew University of Richmond was very selective, but also it didn't break students in the way that I knew, like for instance, like another college that I had been looking into was like College of William and Mary, which they're very intensely rigorous in ways that you need to be super prepared for. And I knew I wanted a place that was more nurturing, and I felt like University of Richmond, with its smaller cohorts, the way people would talk to professors and things like that, like I knew that was much more of the environment that I wanted.
This is a complete side note, but Maria, you you're making me feel very, very old. I see people putting that class of 2025 behind their name, and I'm like, wow, has it been that long? Has it really come to that time for me to leave now?
It goes fast, doesn't it? Way faster than you think. Some days and weeks are really slow, and the 4 years are very fast. Yeah. What other questions are out there for this team?
I have one. So I actually have to leave at like 7, so hopefully. So I was kind of wondering, what has been the most valuable lesson you've learned from being at UR? So how have you seen yourself grow over your 4 years here, and what would you recommend current and prospective students pay attention to in regards to their own growth?
I would love to tackle this question. Okay, so basically, this is actually the one thing I really wanted to make sure I said before this ended. And basically, freshman year, was it freshman year? Might have been sophomore year. Freshman or sophomore year, I met this guy named Jack DeAngelis. He's a great person. By then, I was a bio major with a English Environmental Studies minor. Wait, no. I was a Latin and Environmental Studies minor. English was never a thing until junior year. But anyways, he told me, so we were in APO together, and I was doing an interview for him, and I basically asked him why he does community service, or like why is the community service important to him, and he was like, or specifically in college with APO, and he was like, because college is a very selfish time, and that has stuck with me for like ever. And he elaborated too. He went on to talk about how he's like, it's selfish in a good way. He's like, it's a very good way actually. He's like, you take the time to really focus on yourself. He's like, how can you help others when you don't even have a good grip on your own self? And I was like, oh my God, that's so important. And he was just like, because by that point like I said, I was pre-med, I had all these science majors and minors. I was very set on going to med school on behalf of my family because I was going to be the first one to do college, the first one to be a doctor. There was a lot of pressure, actually. I'm not going to lie, it became overwhelming very often. And then eventually, after talking to Jack about that, I took it in. It took me like a year or two to really process that information and be like, actually, I really should like be doing what I'm doing. And then as a liberal arts school, I had to take that English minor or that English gen ed. I was like, all right, let me knock this out. I'll never look back. Okay, well, I looked back a couple times and I ended up going to a minor and then a major. And honestly, my junior year, I think I love who I am right now. I think I really like, I don't know what happened junior year, but I just became like this whole other Taylor. And like in a sense of like, I decided on my majors. I decided on my English and biology. I was like, you know what? Biology, I feel very confident in getting, that was more job related, but I also love anatomy. So I was like, I can do this. English, that is my like fun major. I love it so much. I'm like, oh, it's great stuff. And then I told my family, they're like, oh, so what are you doing now then if you're not going to do this and that? They're not disappointed, but like disappointed. And so, but I've learned to kind of like just accept it and take it in stride. I'm like, no, I'm still going to do something healthcare related. That's just me. I like it myself. And it kind of also goes into the whole, like, my friends are also very like, oh, cool, like GPA doesn't matter. I'm like, yes, it does, but I appreciate I appreciate your support. So anyways, long story short, I just think that was the biggest takeaway. That one little conversation, I believe it was freshman year, the more I think about it, that one little conversation has stayed with me, and really, especially junior year, when my friends were abroad. I did not go abroad. So I was here, I had to make new friends, new friend groups, which was a little weird, but it was also really great because it finally broke me out of that little closed shell I was in. And yeah, I don't know, it was a really good experience, and I highly recommend anyone else kind of not going through that, just to kind of just realize, just knowing that college really is a selfish time for the best possible reasons. And I would go to my grave telling everyone that.
Yeah, I can add to that and say that for me it was patience and passion. I think those were the two, I guess the two biggest ways that I've changed since freshman year. When I came to college, I didn't really care about much of anything. Obviously, there were some things I'm like, I want a good job. I want to do this. I want to live a successful life. But I think at that point in time I wasn't really willing to do what needed to be done to do a lot of the things that required. And now 4 years later, I'm sitting in a major. I'm about to graduate from a program that has literally allowed me to do everything that I want. I've pretty much identified my passion and what I want to do for the rest of or what I think I want to do for the rest of my life, right? And I've really just had so much of an opportunity to like grow and watch as things happen. And I think it's funny because like experience, it's one of those things that a lot of people kind of discount, they don't really think about, but really when looking back, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever it was I started at UR, I would have never thought that I would be in the positions that I'm in now. I wouldn't have thought that I would be, published in national publications. I wouldn't have thought, when I started college, the last thing I was thinking about was, going into a career in education. Like that was like, I was telling myself, I'm never going to do that. I never want to be a teacher. I never want to get involved in this. And it's like, well, 3 years later, some patience, some passion. Will's gonna go be a teacher, but a different kind of teacher. But definitely has, I think patience. I've become very patient. I've learned to watch and analyze and review, and I just have so much passion for doing social good. And honestly, I think my college experience is the one thing that I have to thank for that. Like, and it's as rough as my experience has been, as challenging as it's been. And, despite the many challenges that UR has, there's certainly been, a lot of opportunity to grow and develop as a student, as a person, as a professional, and as everything else.
Yeah, one thing for me was that I learned the importance of wellness and well-being. Like before, like I had this mentality that if I'm not like stressed or like constantly working, then I'm not doing it right. Like I was like, my body was a machine, and like as long as I can keep on going, I will keep on going. And then I realized like sophomore year, like that type of mentality will just like burn you out like quickly and like completely. And that when you give yourself the time to like actually slow down and really think about what you're doing, like how you're thinking throughout the day, that's when you get to like actually learn about yourself and like realize like what parts of your life is moving in a direction that you actually want it to, like what's clicking with you and what isn't clicking with you. And I think like that like also showed me the power of just like being really honest with yourself. Like if you're doing something, you're just like, wow, like I really just don't enjoy this, or like, wow, this isn't what I want to do. And then if you just like start thinking about like, well, why am I doing this? Like, why am I pursuing this major? Or why am I trying to like be this person? Like, is it because like family influence? Like, is it because of what my friends would think about me? Or is it because like this is just what I've known? And I think like discovering your why is like the greatest thing you could ever do. And that college is the greatest place for you to do that, because like we've said, like there's so many different opportunities in terms of classes, clubs, internships. And so like you can just take this time not to like solidify a career, but just to like get to know yourself. Cause like, just like Will said, like freshman year Ashley would have looked at senior year Ashley and been like, do I know you? Like, who is this? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm so glad that I've become like so like different, but not different that I'm a different person, but that I'm truer to myself than how I was freshman year. I think freshman year I was trying to like live out a persona that I think would thrive the best in the outside world, rather than just trying to like build on like the skill sets I already had within myself and like encourage myself to go down what I truly was interested in and passionate about, and like allow myself to like just completely let go of any like expectations, like family expectations, like outside expectations, and just like let myself kind of just be in the moment and just like finding the flow of life that feels most comfortable to me, but also being okay with that. Like in the future, like maybe like 4 years from now, I'll be a completely different person again. And like that's completely fine. And that's just a part of life. Like you're not gonna just stay the same person. And if you stay the same, that just means that you're not allowing yourself to be put into outside of your comfort zone. So I think like one of the biggest takeaways from my experience here at Richmond is that I should always try to like go out of my comfort zone and see how I come out of those situations as, and like learn from those situations.
I know you have to go soon, so I just want to real quickly say something that hasn't been touched on. But for me, like the biggest piece of advice that I got was just, and learned throughout my time here, is just like you don't have to do everything. Even though like if you're like me, like everything interests you, all the majors, all the minors, all the clubs, but it's really best to just do one or two things, just not only to get more out of those opportunities, but to respect your time. And going back to what Ashley's talking about, like taking care of yourself. Like you want to make sure to always have time to talk with friends, relax and watch Netflix, or, you know, make time to go to CAPS if you want to talk out your feelings and other things going on. And that time is just really important. So don't like do too many clubs or too many activities. And that's one thing that I did over my time. It's been really important to learn. And senior year, I really committed to that by only doing like two major things while I work, and dropping my other major and just being an American Studies major. And that's been extremely helpful.
Okay, we are really down to that last minute. I don't know if any of our panelists can stay a little longer if you didn't get a chance to ask a question. Is there any one last super quick thing that you would say? And you know, our panelists are not the only seniors in the room. So I want to open this up to anybody who feels like they've got, you know, some lifelong wisdom that they'd like to share. Any last pieces we didn't ask you about?
I don't have a question. I just have more of a like an imperative. It's just, you know, explore new things and create and have new experiences. That my research, you know, looks a lot at diversity, and I'm super committed to building inclusive communities on college campuses and things. And I think it's really important, one, to be open-minded and to participate in things that may be challenging, have difficult conversations, have you know, do that thing that will challenge you, and don't ever run away um, from something that might help you grow.
Thanks. Anybody else? Well, I hope you will join me in thanking our seniors who have, many of these folks I did meet when they were first year students. And it's been truly a joy watching the evolution of their paths to being ready to hit that big world. Some in graduate school, some in jobs, I know. Will go on to do some really amazing things, and hope we'll stay in touch. So join me in thanking them. There'll be a little thank you coming from Common Ground for giving us your time. Yeah, loved hearing your stories, and I'm really glad that you took the time to be a part of this. We will try to get this up on our First Gen YouTube channel to share with other folks who couldn't be here tonight. So thank you. Have a great night. Ashley, Raven, Taylor, Will, you were fabulous. And good luck to Maria and to all of you coming back to campus in the less of a COVID time, where you can take advantage of a little bit more of what these folks talked about and build your community and your future here. Take good care, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye. Thank you all.
Bye, you guys.
That was great.